Well, howdy there. My name's Samuel, and together with my friend Greg, we made a little game in 48 hours. Here's a quick rundown of how it went. Hope you enjoy. The prompt for the jam was returning from the brink. So I grabbed my local audio engineer and called dibs on him for the weekend. Meet Greg. Greg and I sat down for a little bit together and threw some ideas against the wall until one stuck.
Yeah, I think there's a cool idea with the mechanics, but it's going to require quite a lot of work to flesh that out. And
good ideas for perhaps another day.
Yeah, Duckling Simulator 2022 or something like that.
Cool. Yeah, there you go. I'm gonna be honest. I'm leaning towards the potion shop.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I think we should do it. Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna give a little ducky here, a little potion. And so the Duck's Bill's development began, with our lead character, Ducky, with hat. I focused on getting the core gameplay loop in place, which was based around a daily cycle. In the morning, you'd get a debt to pay off and a certain number of potion orders to fulfill. You then had to zoom around the island, gathering the plants needed and brewing up said potions, then selling them to the customers. The following day, new plants would grow and your debt would increase. Because that's how economic works, I guess. Sounds easy enough, right? It went mostly smoothly, but I did end up refactoring the same code a couple times. I got it. So the bottom section, good.
Top section.
Top section, bad. No.
Oh.
Delete. Eventually, though, I did have something playable, although it did look like a fever dream. To save myself from this Lovecraftian landscape, I decided it was time to start throwing some proper art assets in. At this time, I was around 8 hours in, and Greg was still in his secret laboratory, doing strange audio things. I'd only really find out about this later. But in the meantime, art was fun to do. I was able to turn off my mind for a little bit, and just watch the pretty colours stimulate my primate brain. And with it being 6 AM, I was definitely starting to feel that cognitive decline. I allowed myself a few hours for some sleep, but when I woke up, I felt pretty terrible. My body felt like it had been in whiplash from staying up all night. So, while I grabbed some coffee, I figured it was probably time to check in with what Greg had been up to. I don't know how he did it, but Greg managed to get some fantastic audio assets in place. I'm just going to let him talk while it plays in the background.
Hi, I'm Greg, and I made the sounds and music for Duck's Bills. Audio and music-wise, it kind of went down like this. After the theme was announced, and Sam and I had a little chat to decide what the basic premise would be, I jumped straight into writing the music. I looked around my little tiny studio, and I saw a ukulele nearby. I figured it's quite small and sounds rather islandy, which is appropriate for ducks and islands. So I kind of just played around and improvised, and fairly quickly the main sort of melodic theme presented itself on the uke. So I went and recorded about 40 seconds of rough musical sketch. Then reached for a few other real-world instruments, like my bass and acoustic guitars, some seed shakers, and also a number of MIDI sample instruments, piano and percussion, drums, etc. So after a few hours of dabbling and really just improvising and iterating, I had most of the main music theme done. It was then time to get some sleep. Saturday morning I woke fairly early and I thought I'd just start chipping away at some of the basic sound effects for Ducky McHat. I used a combination of library sounds from Soundly and found sounds that I've either collected over the years or I grabbed a couple out of the garden as well. Using my phone, I've got a Shure MV55 mic that plugs into my iPhone, and I must say it's a really handy little tool. Interestingly, at one point there was an actual Egyptian goose outside in the garden, and he was making a hell of a racket. And I went digging for my shotgun mic and some cables, and I plugged everything in, ran outside, and naturally, as I got to try and record him, he stopped making noise and seemed to disappear. So it was a missed opportunity. Being somewhat of a noob with regards to Unreal Audio, a large portion of this jam was spent learning how to do the things that I wanted to. So thanks to the internet for generally having answers to the most random and obscure questions. With a limited number of sounds, I try to make sure that I could use subtle pitch and volume randomization. This way, whenever the sounds repeated themselves, they'd never really feel like they were repeating, and you could get a lot of mileage out of a handful of simple sounds. And a lot of the assets I'd also export the sounds in 3 layers, sort of low, mid, and high frequency layers. And then each layer would get their own version of pitch and volume randomization. So when you combine them all together, it would just feel a lot more organic and natural. Late on Saturday evening, I returned back to the music, this time focusing on the bass, explore music. I really wanted things to feel open-ended until the main theme kicked in, so I improvised a few chunks of music. There were 6 in total, and each chunk had 5 instruments playing at once, and for each instrument within each chunk there were 2 variations. And all the instrumental ideas were written using harmonic and melodic ideas that would work regardless of how they were combined. I jumped into Unreal after that and set out to create a playback system that would randomly choose a chunk and then at the same time randomly choose a group of instrument variations. And once that chunk finished, it would then choose another random chunk and randomly choose a set of instruments to play underneath that. And that would just loop continuously. This allowed me to get a seemingly openly ended feeling music track that seldom repeats itself. And yeah, the explore music plays until the main theme kicks in, which is about 1.5 minutes before the end of a round. Final hours leading up to the handover were spent tweaking and revising and attempting to figure out how sound cues work in Unreal. I think Sam got them to work, but I still don't know how to use those. Yes, but SA Game Jam 2020, it was the first game jam that I've participated in, and I'm really glad Sam got in touch and asked if I wanted to work with him, because yeah, I had a lot of fun and learned a hell of a lot in a short space of time. Thanks.
So that's the major steps we took in creating the Duck's bills. At around this time we submitted it for the judges, though I did go back to do a couple little tweaks, such as adding a colorblind optional mode for brewing potions and fixing up some bugs. Just last week we heard the results of the jam. The judges seemed to really like Ducky, awarding us an honourable mention for art, and winning the audio prize. So if you'd like to try it, feel free to visit the itch link in the description and give it a whirl. And please do check out the creators of these artworks. They are wonderful people, and they create a lot more wonderful work. Also visit Greg's SoundCloud to hear the updated soundtrack. And if you have about 21 hours to spare, we have portions of the live stream on my channel if you want to see me slowly solving bugs. Cheers!